I guess we should move forward now into the budget and the tax levy.
Sure.
It's the big question, right? So in April, when they vote for school board members, people will also be voting on this 54-cent tax levy increase. How do you feel about the levy?
Well, that was one of the questions posed last night at the NAACP forum. Each one of us, there were 4 of us in attendance. Of course, Dr. Rose is still at home recovering from his heart attack. He did send a statement that he's planning to continue to run and so forth. So he wasn't there to answer the question. Mr. Brooks was not there. But the 4 of us, we were posed that question, and I was very open. On April the 8th, when I cast my ballot at Rockbridge High School, is where we vote because of our residents. I'm going to vote yes for the tax increase. And I don't enjoy paying property taxes either. However, one of the things that's important, I see where it works. I see the kids in our neighborhood getting on those school buses each and every day. I see the kids walking into Gentry, walking into Rockbridge High School, walking into schools across the district, and that's what we're investing in. And we don't like to pay that, but the unfortunate thing is in today's world, and it's not any different than it was, those school taxes, those are the only things people can really say yes or no to. When we send our taxes into the federal government on April the 15th, you can't say no to those. You can file protest or whatever, but the bottom line is you don't have a vote. And school taxes are a little bit different because the local people do support those. And Columbia's been very fortunate, and I just hope, we have a lot of things going on. We have, the downturn in the economy, the state resources, the funding foundation formula has changed and doesn't support the Columbia Public Schools like it used to. So you have 3 things converging at the same time, and it's just unfortunate. With that point, especially with the economy turning down the way it is.
That was actually going to be my next question. What do you think about the timing of this now?
Well, unfortunately, you can't. You can. The board had an option to say, well, the economic situation is such that we can't do that. However, it's important. I think the board. I applaud their efforts to bring it to the public. It's a public decision. And if they didn't bring it to the public, they have no opportunity to either react to that, yes or no. So, as far as the question, is it a wise thing for them to do? I'd be disappointed if they said, we're going to cut $10 million from programs, and we didn't have a chance as a public to vote on it. So, I think that's the voting process. It was their decision to bring it to a vote, and the people on April 11th are going to, make their views known.
So how do you propose the district moves forward if, say, the levy doesn't pass?
Well, the administration, of course, they've worked with the teachers, they've worked with building principals, they've worked with curricular programs, and they've identified, at least the last time I saw a list of about 108 different budget cuts. They're set into 3 different priorities. One of them set that if the tax levy does pass, there's still about $5.4 million of cuts that are going to occur. If it doesn't pass, then you get into tiers 2 and 3 in those budget cuts, and those start affecting classrooms. Everything. One of the things that's important, even in the first round of budget cuts, those are programs, those are things that kids, teachers are involved in. And if you take something of those away, it's affecting somebody's child, somebody's program, somebody's parents, and so forth. And it's not, it's easy to sit in a situation and say, well, this is what we've got to do. But there's human elements tied to each one of those. And I applaud when the administration posed those, not only did they talk about the cuts and how much money it was going to save, they talked about the impact in the classroom. And that's the most important piece. Yes, we've got to cut. But the depth of the cuts are really going to be determined by what the public says on April the 8th.
Okay. And then just a couple more things. There's this bill right now, this teacher certification bill that's moving through the legislature. Yes. Are you familiar with that?
The ABCTE?
ABCTE.
There's a couple.
Okay, the teacher certification would be where basically if you're a lawyer or you're a banker, then you can become a teacher.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Well, since my role is I wear, I'm a citizen of the Columbia Public Schools, but from 8 to 4, I serve as the director for educator programs in the state of Missouri. helping develop teachers on 57 different campuses across the state. I think everybody has talents they can bring to a classroom. In order, with certification measures, and there's several of them out there. Right now, those people can get a certificate. There's a way. The thing is, and the way that works is, if you were a person and the school district wanted you to be in those classrooms, there's a way that you could call and get a certificate either on a temporary basis or even working toward one. Especially if you have a college degree, depending upon the area you're in. So, there's a misconception out there that you need legislation to do that. That's what's kind of puzzling to me as I sit back and, I see these different pieces out there, because it doesn't have to be that complicated. Now, the flip side is you have to want to be in the classroom, and there are people that could walk out of the business world and be great teachers. I've worked with some of them. There's people that could walk out of the business world and walk into a classroom and not do very well. The same way as there's classroom teachers that walk into a business environment and be very successful, and there's some that will walk in and fall flat on their face. The key thing is developing the relationships with those students you're working with the people around you, and presenting them with a strong and solid curriculum. And yes, somebody from, in the banking world, finance, whatever, could do that job with that. And there's ways to get certification. So really, that piece of legislation, it's out there, but there's ways of getting it done without it.